welcome to the Writer Tribe Talk Show with your host, Elsa Kurt. Here's the place we talk about all things writing, publishing, and promoting your book. If you're looking for the perfect gift for the reader in your life, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon and most major online book retailers, as well as elsakurt.com. Hello, and welcome to the Writers Tribe Talk Show. I'm your host, Elsa Kurt, and today I have with me author Deb Jarvis. Do you like Deborah or Deb?
I like Deb.
Okay, as I was saying it, I stuttered in my head. I was like, wait, okay, we got it. Deb Jarvis, thank you. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I have open here because, I have like everything going at once. I've got all kinds of computers and phones and the whole works going. And I wanted to make sure I could see your books up. I have your website up. And I love your website, by the way. It looks gorgeous. So,
Thank you.
and
I had someone design it. I'm not a website person.
Yeah.
So I actually found somebody who knew a lot more than I did.
Nice. Yes. I know you didn't struggle through it and just like I did and did everything the hard way. You mean you're one of the smart people?
It's more that I just don't have time to spend the time trying to figure it out. So
Yeah, I'm one of those fools that likes to do everything, and I mean everything the hard way, nothing simple. So yes, but they did a beautiful job on it, and I'm so excited to talk to you about your books and learn all about them. So before we do that, tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so I was raised in Andover, Massachusetts. My mom was an English teacher. My dad was a mechanic. And I've just always loved books, especially fantasy novels. That was kind of my childhood. I wasn't really an athletic kid. I have asthma, so it wasn't something that, was great for me to go out and run and do sports. So I spent a lot of time reading. Started off pretty early with like the Chronicles of Narnia and then got into Peter S. Beagle. I know, yeah, right. Read The Hobbit when I was about 11. So, I mean, I've spent a lot of time reading. And just obviously I'm, a copious reader. Now I'm an English teacher in high school and college. I get to share my love of books with other people and, finally got my first book out. So we're happy about the way that's gone.
That's so exciting. So did you know from a young age, of course, an avid reader, did you know from a young age that you wanted to be a writer?
I think at about the age 14, I started really playing around with it. And the roots of Kirilismus come from around that time period, because I just started creating stories and really just playing around with different characters, started writing what I loved. And it's over time has just kind of adapted into it. So yeah, I definitely say from the time I was a young teenager, got into the idea of writing and just like, I love this stuff. I love reading, absolutely love The Last Unicorn. It's my favorite book. And I've talked about that a lot in my classes, and they're like, oh, it's unicorns. I'm like, no. It's not cute. It's not a cute book. It's a pretty serious book. And, just kind of going from there and saying, okay, well, this is the sort of thing I love to read. So this is what I would want to write.
That's great. What age group do you teach?
I teach high school and college.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so right now I've got 10th graders and a mix of 11th and 12th in college comp, and I've got a college class that'll be starting up in a couple of weeks.
That's really exciting. Do you have like standout students who are really, I'm sure college you probably definitely do, but high school is a little different. There's hopefully always that one kid. Like I was always that one kid. I was a very confusing kid. I was a derelict. I was a troublemaker. I was a terrible student, except for in English. And that was where the only subject where I ever excelled. And I frustrated the daylights out of all of my other teachers.
Yeah, there's some wonderful kids that I work with. And I absolutely have, I think, one of the best English departments ever to work with. Everybody in our department, there's 7 of us. We're all really dedicated. Everybody loves reading. We all love the kids, and we all kind of rally around the ones that need the extra love. But there are some standout students who just are phenomenal writers, and you can see that they're really blossoming and really doing well.
That's so exciting. I love that. I would love that, actually. I would love to see that, the start of that and be a part of it. That's really, really cool. So you've been writing your series. This is a series that you have out.
Yep.
How many books are in the series published right now?
Just one. We're
Oh,
working on
okay.
the second one, so hopefully that'll be out late February, early March. That's our goal. It's all going to depend on, is the artist for the cover going to have it done in time? Are we going to get all the edits done in time? And you spoke with Sophia the last night, I think it was, and the two of us are like, okay, and we've been kicking and screaming our way through this book, and our editing process is, I'm sure she told you, it's a kind of a unique way of going through, and we kind of joke our way through it, and she yells at me about dangling modifiers and misplaced things, and it's like, okay, we'll get this, we'll get there.
That's funny. Yeah, she did tell me it was a really fun interview, and listening to her talk about your working relationship and your friendship, we've already decided. I don't know if she told you yet, but we already decided that we need both of you on together, because
Yep.
I feel like I'm just gonna sit back and just watch a show. I'll watch a show on my show, because you guys sound like you're a blast.
Yeah,
And
we really have a lot of fun with it. And I mean, she's very serious about the edits, and we'll sometimes argue over, okay, is this comma supposed to be here? Well, yeah, technically. And, we go back and forth. We got kind of hung up on a New Englandism earlier, because the way it was phrased is very much the way it would be in, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, but it's not something. She's in Pennsylvania, it isn't the way, they might say it there. So occasionally we butt heads on some of the colloquial phrases, like down cellar, things like that are not in one part of the country, but are in other parts.
funny. Yeah, sometimes you don't think about those things unless you have somebody to bounce it off of that is from a different area. So it was actually, I don't know if it was, planned to work like that, but it's actually brilliant to get that different perspective. So the first book that's out is The Crystal Pawn. Is that
Yeah,
correct? Is that the one that's out right now?
yeah,
Okay.
that's the
Tell
one
me a
that's
little
out.
bit about that, because it looks amazing. Like, I could be really boring and be that creep that reads it right off the screen, but it's more exciting to hear it from the author. So tell us a little bit about The Crystal Pawn.
So just as a first thought, The Crystal Pawn was originally a combination of The Crystal Pawn and The Upcoming Ivory Queen. And we started looking into, years and years ago, we started looking into, how long fantasy novels generally are, and realized that really this is two novels. So it got hacked in half. So it really is the first part of, the storyline. And the third book will continue on from there. But The Crystal Pawn is looking at a character who, she's fairly average, normal person living in New Hampshire. Very much not me. And Sophia and I have had these long discussions. She's like, she's not you. I'm like, I know she's not me. We've definitely gone our own separate ways. If there ever was a relationship, there isn't anymore. But she's living in New Hampshire with her grandfather. She never knew who her father was. And then all of a sudden, one day, he shows up in her life and is like, yeah, so we kind of need your help. And it evolves into the fact that she is the last one in his line, or in his lineage, who is able to potentially get the dragons to come and help. And there's an upcoming war, and she's not going to be able to stop the war, but she might be able to influence things through the fact that she has these gifts, enough to get the dragons to come back. But nobody knows where the dragons are. They've been gone for over 300 years. Everything's been very chaotic, and the plot slowly winds through her learning more about the country, learning more about herself, and then discovering that there's been a subtle undercurrent of almost kind of espionage going on, where groups who have been sent to see if they can find the dragons have disappeared mysteriously and haven't actually returned. So there's a plot that's hatched that as she's going off to go to a ball at another castle, they're going to make a break for it and try and go and find somebody to help them get down to find the dragons on their own, because they believe that there's a possibility that they'll never get called. And it just kind of goes sideways from there. And they end up meeting some very influential characters on the way down.
So exciting. It sounds like epic. It just sounds like an epic story. And you had me at dragons, by the way. I love anything with dragons. Yeah. Yeah. The second you said dragons, I'm like, yep, reading this in right away. And so I'm already excited for book 2, and I haven't even started book 1 yet. Do you know how many books are going to be in the series, or will the series tell you?
Well, right now we know there's three.
Okay.
But there is some debate as to where it's going to go after that, because there's a lot of story plot for book three, and are not sure if it's going to be too much for book three. There certainly is, there's kind of layers upon layers of espionage going on, and where they think it's this thing, it turns out that it's not only the other thing, but there's a third thing that nobody actually recognized was going on underneath. So it's very much one of those, how many people are going to be backstabbing each other in the process of the series. So we do have the titles planned out fairly well through, and I know on the website it has up through the Ebon King, but if we do go to book four, it'll be the Checkered Land. So we do have this kind of odd chess theme that goes through it. But again, this is very much everybody has to make certain moves during the process of the story, or else it doesn't get done.
Wow. It's just brilliant. It sounds brilliant. Tell me, what would you say, I'm going to ask you, it's a two-part question. What would you say has been the most challenging or difficult thing about writing this series?
I think the most difficult thing, other than getting myself to publish it, because I, for a long time, wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, was being able to say, okay, so a lot of things have happened in my life. The original storyline that we're working with was written in my late 20s. In my 30s, I went through a divorce, had to figure out what I was going to do, ended up going into teaching. So it kind of got typed, but sat for a while. So it took it a little bit of a while. And then just finally pulling myself up and saying, okay, I need to deal with this. And, fortunately, or unfortunately, I guess, the whole shutdown and lockdown of everything kind of gave me more time than I normally would have in a teaching year. And that's when this was our escape. Both myself and Sophia kind of looked at the lockdown and said, we need to do something creative when we tackled the book. And she has her own project, and I'm sure she talked about the archive.
Yes.
Archive horror. Yeah, the archive horror. And I've heard chunks of that story, which is amazing. And I can't wait to get my fingers on it to be editing her book as well.
I was just going to ask you if that's a reciprocal thing that you two are editing for each other. Oh, that's so cool.
It will be. We'll be editing for each other. And she and I talked about it this afternoon, and she's like, you and I have very different writing styles. We have very different writing styles. She goes at it from a much more fluid, I think, and I'm more structural, just the way I write. But that comes from reading a lot of, classical novels, like, The Last Unicorn, and being an English teacher. I think I can't quite escape some of the structure. That doesn't mean that that's bad, but it's just the way I write. And so the two of us have very different styles of writing.
Yeah, that can be really fun too. I'm sure it's challenging, but I bet it's really fun too, because do you ever feel like your or her style kind of ekes into yours, or vice versa?
I think they are. I think she's told me, and we talked about this, I think yesterday, she's told me that she notices that some of the things we've talked about have started slipping into her writing. And I know that some of the things that we've talked about from my writing have started sneaking into mine, which is good, because it gives it a little bit of a broader perspective. And I notice things about her writing that I'm like, hey, you might want to fix that, grammatically, there's an issue. Nothing ever bad, but just, the phrasing. And she's like, hey, you've got way, way too many adverbs ending in ly, let's kill them. And I'm like, sure, I'm absolutely fine with that. So, I'm starting to watch for those things. She's starting to watch for other things. And, we find that it's a very good reciprocal relationship.
Are you able to read other books while you're writing? I mean, yours are very long projects, so it's almost like, how can you not read, right?
Right. I mean, right now I'm reading Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone.
Okay.
So, and which the entire, not the entire English department, but a large chunk of the English department and our librarian are currently, reading, because we all love the series. So Diana Gebel with her Outlander series. So we're really enjoying that. But it doesn't tend to creep too much, seems to be okay. But I just have to be kind of cautious, and I am aware when that sort of thing happens.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, all right, so I asked you what the hardest thing about writing this series is. What's the easiest? What's come the easiest?